54. And guys, check this out for some professional gigs. We are live with Tom Panos and Lisa Novak, one of the leaders or the most prominent leaders in real estate in Australia. Tom, thank you so much for coming on to the
Absolute pleasure. The Novak show is now, would it be a year old?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a run for your money soon, Tom. I saw that you're like number 2 in the world or something in real estate.
Number three in the world in likes, and number 2 in the world on engagement. After Gary Vaynerchuk, you know.
Well
yes.
done, Tom. You bloody
I'm happy. Look, I got to say, Lisa, right now, I don't care about the sale and I don't care about the money. I care about the relationship and I care about the touch points. And the truth of the matter is there's a time to sow and there's a time to reap. Now, a lot of people are going to turn around and say, oh, this guy's got a negative attitude about the fact that, hey, I'm telling you, you should factor in April and May ain't going to be an incredible month in sales, right? You factor that in, right? And then you fast forward and you say to yourself, well, if I'm not going to have a great April, May month in sales, that basically means I'm not going to have a great month in June, July. So if you're intelligent right now, what you would be doing is addressing that issue. Like Lisa, what would you do? Well, for a start, you would actually sit down with a pen and paper and say, okay, how short am I going to be? Fantastic. Okay, so let's forecast that I'm only going to do 25% of the sales I normally did. That means I might have to touch my costs a bit. Maybe I need to press the submit button and see what Scott Morrison is going to give me. And maybe I need to also go off and speak to a bank because the interest rates are very low. And maybe I need to borrow some money at a very low rate at the moment, a business loan, to get me through this period. Or alternatively, you can actually just say to yourself, I'm not going to participate in this. I'm going to make all the sales in the world and hope for the best. But I actually think you want to hope for the best, but you might want to prepare for the worst. You know?
I agree. And look, we were just talking just before we came on air. I reckon the best thing people can do right now is be memorable. There is no one that is going to remember more in this time how you make them feel. That's it. Call it whatever you want, Tom. Sales, rentals.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm remembering you guys because when the shit goes down, when you're suffering, when you're actually going through a dark time, when it's one of your low seasons, I still remember as I'm talking to you right now, I remember the great hamper and basket of food that you sent the time that my brother died, right? I remember that. I remember it clearly because you seem to remember, like it's really interesting. When the shit goes down, you seem to remember things that affect your heart more, right? So you are right. I remember you being at my brother's funeral, and I'm not trying to compare my brother's funeral or my brother's death to what's going on with COVID-19. For some people, it's worse. For some people, it's better. For some people, look, I have to tell you, in my own life, it hasn't been a bad 3 weeks because, Lisa, it's sort of, for me, abnormal when I look at it now is actually being on a plane 2 times a day for 300 days a year. I've actually got a bit of normality in my own life, right?
Yeah.
So it's impacted me financially, right? But I sort of factored that in now, and I've moved on from it. But
it reset us all spiritually. And like, I'm not an overly spiritual person, but I hear what you're saying, Tom. Like yesterday, I spent time with our kids cleaning out the pantry. Like I can't remember the last time I even had time to do that kind of stuff, and doing jigsaw puzzles. You know what I mean? Like it's like a factory reset that's been forced on us. And yes, everyone in one way or another is suffering.
So you did do jigsaw puzzles, because that was one of the things that I do remember that Scott Morrison said when he said, look, tell you. He said, Kate went out to the shops. I think his name, James. Sorry, name's James. Jane went out to the shops and she bought some jig puzzles. And jigsaw puzzles, they're going to be essential things for us in the coming weeks. Anyway,
Right.
he said that last week on one of his speeches.
It's bloody interesting times. I can give it that. But I think in 2021, we're definitely a better race. That's for sure. That is for sure. You know, some of the values that and what I've been saying, Tom, is we've run the essential magnifying glass in everyone's life is being run over everything. Yeah. And if I try to understand why something's doing well or not well, or just try to understand, I run that as my essential glass, magnifying glass over this. I'm like, yep, that's why. Dunny paper.
Yeah, no, Mark, well said. And I think whether you're a restaurateur owner that's had 4 amazing restaurants that have had a buzz to it and you've been smashing, making a few million a year, whether you're a person that was a gymnasium entrepreneur, whether you're a social media influencer and you were pocketing 300-400 grand a year, and you realize that thing can happen in one day. It's a reality check that, hey, when things are good, be grateful for them, because it's only when things are taken away from you that you realize how much you value them. And I think what you've said, the reset button, the spiritual, the spiritual enlightenment that people are getting, whether you're a Manly Leagues football player that's on 300 grand a year, you're going to be in love with the code in 6 months' time, because you're going to realize what a good life you had. Whether you're a person, whatever job you're in, you're going to realize, hey, life was good. Whether you're a pilot and you used to complain about the occasional fact that you were working long hours, blah, 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 but you were making 500 grand a year, seeing the whole world, you're going to say to yourself, okay, I've got a good thing. It's a reset button. It's an opportunity for people to actually get grateful and realize that life is pretty good. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because as far as I'm concerned, like, we're still getting, like, we're dampening the curve, but like, you got to understand the way this virus works is like anything that exponential. So even today, I believe 110 cases, right? So don't forget, 110 cases means, so 110 new cases, it still means that there is 110 people know people who know people who know people, right? So you really got to suffocate it, right? You've got to suffocate it. New Zealand only had 34 cases today, but they've had a more serious lockdown, you know?
It's interesting.
So
but just one thing that I think that we've all got to understand is that, you know, there's 2 threats. One's the health threat, which I deeply respect, but I also the economic threat, which I deeply respect as well. And I think that that's what we're dealing with at the coalface at the moment with property, Tom. Like, we're dealing with people that are being affected financially. We actually haven't had people say they're victims of the virus or family of that, but we're having people say that, you know, everyone who rings up is saying, yeah, we're victims of this financially. So I think that the government put a lot of money behind that with mental health, the mental health system, anxiety, depression, and that sort of stuff, because people have that to deal with if they don't have the sickness. Do you know what I mean? And that's been big for us. That's consumed, you know, 40, 50 people at Novak in the last week.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think the thing is that nothing is normal. You know, we were talking about it today, Tom, when you said, what are we going to talk about? I said, we need to talk about the fact that nothing's normal, because what you guys see here on the other end of your phone might appear to be normal, but I can assure you, there is nothing, certainly in our life, that is normal at the moment. There's so many new balls that we've got to juggle on top of the other 20 balls that we were juggling before this even happened. You know, you put family into the equation. Now kids are on school holidays. Then we were homeschooling. Then you've got the business. Then, you know, you're dealing with people that can't pay their rent. So, I mean, 1,500 managements are under our care. You know, then you've got 3,000 tenants. So it's just, you know, a million balls to juggle.
And let me just say, Lisa, and 3,000 tenants who unfortunately ended up, and Scott Morrison has done a decent job. I mean, the verdict is still out because we're going to see how this all pans out. But he's actually the one bit that affects my life and affects your life even more so as owners of a business. He actually only said a snapshot of what he really meant to say, which is he actually said, and this to me has created significant ramifications in what to me is an essential service. He said, and I heard it with my own ears, I'm letting you know that no one is going to be evicted. What happened? Those words basically interpreted by thousands and thousands and thousands of tenants were, okay, it appears that we're not going to get kicked out of our property if we don't pay the rent, right? Really, and I feel for tenants that can't afford to pay the rent. What I don't like is a group of people that said, okay, how do we manipulate those words? And what worries me is some genuine tenants, now people that are genuine tenants that have got no job, are going to be impacted adversely because some other tenants who have kept their jobs have gone in and thought, how do I exploit a situation? Where in reality, what the Prime Minister said incomplete was, you're not going to be thrown out of your place, but you're going to have to work out a plan to actually make sure that you meet the obligations of your lease, right?
Which is a contract. Which is a contract.
And you had Lisa Jamison on, who explained that, you know, you've got a contract and you're obligated to pay the contract. And to be quite honest with you, we've been waiting for, like, I thought today they were going to answer some tenant relief packages and explain what they meant, but it wasn't announced yet. So I can only assume that they're still working on it.
Well, I believe, and we've been contacted by, and I won't say who, but we have been contacted by some people to give our input into who's affected. And this person said, can you send us through the form that you're sending out to tenants? And Mark said, yep, I'll send that over to you. But where's the form for the landlords? Which form should they fill out? Right?
So
because here we are. Go on, Mark, go on.
Sorry, it was there's a lot of agents are now filling out or getting from whoever they get their franchise or something, they're getting forms from the franchise group saying, get your tenants to fill out this form, like a hardship form.
Right.
When I spoke to an industry body, they said, hey, have you got one of those forms? And I said, I got a couple, but I wouldn't mind, because I pay, I wouldn't mind seeing your form. And they sent through the form. And I said, this is a tenant hardship form. They said, yes. I said, where's the landlord hardship form as well? Because I'd expect they'd sort of come together.
Yes.
Because it's, you know, very quickly, everyone was very quick to put their hand up saying, I'm a tenant, I'm in trouble, but so are the landlords.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Listen, I got asked this morning, and I do social distancing, but I've got this obsession that I've got to have a coffee in the morning. I've gone to pick up a coffee. I've been waiting outside for my coffee, and people in Haberfield know that I'm associated with real estate, right? And a tenant asked me, he's a tenant in Haberfield, asked me this question, and here was my response. He said to me, can I ask you, because I know that you're an auctioneer and you're involved in real estate, do you know, under the new COVID rules, how much of a discount will I get in my rent? He asked me, and I said to him, listen, I don't know whether there is a discount. All I can say to you is that your landlord may speak to the bank, and the bank may likely say to them, you don't have to pay your repayments for 3 or 4 months, but you're going to pay for those repayments with interest in 3 or 4 months afterwards. You're going to pay that back. It's not for free. So I said to the tenant, I assume that if you've got a cash flow issue, it's going to correlate to the same way the owner is, that you're going to have to work out a plan to pay that, because the banks are still taking the money off the owner. And you're rightly so, Mark, you made a very valid point to whichever body you were speaking to, because I think it would be horrific to have an owner that becomes made redundant or unemployed, and then they've got a mortgage of, say, $3,000 a month, and let's assume the rent that they're getting is probably, say, $600 a week, takes it to $2,400 a month, and they're not getting that rent, and this guy's got to come up with $3,000. And if he doesn't come up with the $3,000, he's got a problem with the bank. So you've got to look at both things, you know.
And here's the thing, it compounds though. This is what people don't realize. So even if the landlord's been kind enough to pass on that discount, or, you know, that rental reduction of $50 a week, that $50 a week's got to be paid at some stage, whether it's now, in 3 months, or in 6 months. So, you know, it's got to be paid for. And the banks are doing the same, Tom. You know, they're saying, okay, you know,
I don't
like
the banks pulled this off perfectly. The banks executed the first 2 weeks of COVID. The banks executed what they needed to do together with the government brilliantly. The banks did not give away one red cent.
1,000,000%. And they look like the good guys. And yet, if you have a look at capitalisation of interest, they're actually double copping the interest. They're picking up the interest, and it's called interest capitalisation. And if anyone's watching this,
they helped the people. They were there for the people. They helped the people.
But guys, it's not their first rodeo.
Now the real estate industry's come along, gone to do the same thing for housing. Talk about a mess up.
Even a journalist on the news tonight, I couldn't believe, I was about to actually go through the TV and say, like, should you be in journalism in economics, or should you actually go off and do a story on a current affair about some lawn mowing guy that's done something shifty or something? Because she wasn't too intelligent to say, it's really surprised me. The banks have really played their part here. They've put their hand out. All they're doing is interest capitalisation, and that's been available for a long time.
Well, that's it, Tom. So, but guys, this was available to people before COVID even existed. If you came into hardships, the banks pulled out their little book and they read you through the policies and procedures. Now, this has never happened before in real estate, not en masse like this. You know, where's the book? We don't know. We're kind of scurrying to get the policies and procedures together. We're working this shit out as we go.
Lisa, there are products out there that banks have had for years that allow their you know, lines of credit type products, right, that have got low interest rates, mirroring interest rates of home loans. Now, I can't tell you specifically which banks got which product and what name, but they are products that you can capitalize the interest,
100%.
right? It's a product you can capitalize, and it's not even on hardship. It's something that you're allowed to do.
So, Tom, can I just say this? Sorry, Mark, go on. Because I want to deal with the facts, and I've got 3 questions here that I want to ask Tom, and I reckon they're good questions that people want to know.
Time, but before we go into your great questions that you got ready, Tom, one thing I also wanted to talk with you about was, where did the $130 billion that came in to support people, the economy, and to support people out of jobs? That money is only going to be spent on 2 things in the month of April. You're going to be, let's go to your home, Tom, and let's go to my home, our home. Yeah. We're going to be spending it on essential, pretty much food. Fuel, we're not going to be spending it on. Entertainment, we're not going to be spending it on. Travel, we're not going to be spending it on. Restaurants, we're not going to be spending. There is nothing. All we're spending money on is in Woolworths.
Yes.
And accommodation, shelter, roof over the head. 2 things. So at 130 billion come in the door. So whether you lost your job or got your job, your actual income is sort of around about still there, but your expenditure, the money you're actually spending, has just closed up, and people don't realize their lack of spending. People look back at how much they spent in Feb. That's clear. People have no idea how much they're not going to spend. Gym memberships, how much they're not going to spend in April. Put that income together with that lack of spending, people are going to have more money in their pockets, majority of people, to pay rent,
Yeah.
to pay their mortgage, which is probably frozen, and food.
You know what I just realized? You're right, because the way I spend money is I pay with my phone, and I'm trying to remember. I've got a coffee card at the cafe that I get the coffee, so I don't pull that out. So I'm trying to remember the last time I actually used this.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't remember it.
We're spending less. We're cooking at home, we're spending less. All right, so, okay, I've got a couple of questions. So Mark and I are big believers in, we only deal with the facts. You can only imagine, we've got a lot of staff and we're dealing with a lot of people all day, every day, a lot of landlords, a lot of tenants. We don't listen to the speculation. We just deal with the cold, hard facts. So let's ask, I've got 3 questions for you. We get asked this daily. Is it a good time to sell? I don't know. I know it's a how long is a piece of string question. What do you reckon, Tom?
Probably is. And the reason why is that most of the people that sell, most, not all, most of the people that sell are usually doing another deal. So this is a basic law in mathematics that I've known from the 33 years in real estate, that when the market's got fear and you're moving to a better home, you do it then. Because what happens is you probably sell for $100,000 less, but you probably buy for $200,000 less. So you're $100,000 better off in the transaction. But the average
mortgage.
On a 25-year mortgage, but the average person says, oh, but I'm going to lose 100 grand. And that's why we're wired as humans. And Daniel Kahneman did research. He won a Nobel Prize for this in 1979, which is that people feel more pain losing $1 than pleasure winning $1. So as human beings, we automatically think, but I'm losing my 100 grand. I'm losing my 100 grand. The weird thing is this comes along, market picks up. They get their $100,000. But what happens is they then make the move. They make the move. And guess what happens is they're paying like 200-300 grand more for the property. So they actually end up being worse off trading when the market picks up. So the answer is, generally speaking, Lisa, you are. If you're an investor and all you're going to do is do nothing, and you weren't planning to sell for a few years, maybe it's not the right time to sell. Maybe it's going to be a different marketplace in 6 months, a year. I don't know. If you're the sort of person that thinks to themselves, hey, I want to sell and I want to cash in and put money into the share market because I think there's going to be more upside in the share market because real estate's probably gone down around 5-10% at the moment. They sell their property. They don't get too bad a price because there's no other properties on the market because everyone's thinking, let's not put it on. So they put it on and they end up selling it because there's no other stock there. And there's all these buyers that are sitting home being bored shitless and they're all on realestate.com and they see a property that they like and they end up going on a one-on-one appointment and they buy it. And this person, sells it. And then he goes off and he buys BHP and Rio Tinto and all these shares.
Yeah.
Maybe for that person, it is a good time to sell. So,
You know what I say, Tom? Get out your essential magnifying glass. If it is essential, bang. Do you know what I mean? Essential to buy that home. And what I've been saying lately is, guess what? We're all staying at home and suddenly it's essential to have an office at home. Suddenly it's essential to have an extra room. Suddenly, I think people are going to come out of this looking at their home and saying, I want a better one.
Or a balcony. Or
this is too much for me. I didn't even use half the house when I was locked in the house.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think essential is going to play a big part. And I think property is going to, if it's essential for you to make a move now, hell, do it.
Okay, well, Tom, can't pay my rent. What do I do? Sorry if you don't know the answers to these, just say so.
No. If you can't pay your rent, what do you do at the moment is that you collect any documentation that you have that supports your case that you can't pay the rent. Because if you're watching this and you're a tenant, I want to let you know You've got some undesirable people that can pay the rent that are ringing up real estate agents and saying, I can't pay the rent. So what do? You actually put yourself in a better position by having a quality application. That's what it's like. You're basically putting together a submission saying, hey, here's my termination letter. Hey, here's what my salary was on. Hey, this is where I'm at right now. I've gone on to Job Start. Here's my paperwork. I want to let you know, can you speak to your owner and see what you can do? And then what you do, you put in a reasonable request. You don't go put in something that pisses everyone off and then you get a breakdown in discussion. But more importantly, have patience, because I'm keeping my fingers crossed over the next few days that we're going to have some news, information, legislation that's going to allow you to actually benefit with all this amount of money that's being spent by Scott Morrison. So that's what I'd be doing.
Spot on. And again, guys, just getting back to deal with the facts. Wait for the facts. So it's exactly spot on. It's exactly what we've been telling everyone that's been contacting us.
Is that a horse behind you, Lisa?
What is it? Oh, my camera keeps moving. Guys, if you saw my setup, here tonight, I've got a vase on a breadboard with my phone and a glass holding it, and the glass keeps slipping. It's gold. Anyway, whatever. Multitasking. How long is it going to last, Tom? How long will this last?
I don't know the answer to that question, Lisa, because it's going to last longer than New Zealand. And I'll tell you why. Because today, New Zealand had 34 infections. Australia had 110, right? So the thing about exponentials is this. Exponentials means that it grows really quickly, and that's what a virus like this does, or anything that's exponential. It goes. But what it also does, it can come down really quickly as well, right?
Yeah.
If you suffocate it, right? So yesterday I was talking to Louis Christopher from SQM on a video on the Sunday.
Loved it.
The Sunday night rant, and he's influenced my thinking, which is that there's two scenarios here, right? Scenario one, which is the one I pray to God works out, is that every day we wake up and you've got that health minister that sits next to Scott Morrison and says, good news. He does it in a very dull tone. He goes, good news. Want to let you know we've only had 75 infections. And then he'll say 64. Yeah. And then we've had 33. And what's happening is all of a sudden people are thinking, okay, guess what? This is it. We've won this game, right? So that scenario says to me that potentially by the end of this month that we're going to hear the minister, and that's what Louis Christopher said yesterday, auctions and open houses were one of the last things to sort of go, and they'll be one of the first things to come back. And then when that happens is that all bets are off. We're off to the races. Best stimulus, best grants, best ever opportunity. Real estate's going to be like the roaring 20s. We had this Spanish flu, and then it's all guns. It's just amazing. So that's one scenario. The second scenario is that, infections don't go down and they sort of stay stable, and the government says we're still super concerned. And what happens is they keep things like this. People are scared. People are fearing unemployment. Businesses can't open again. What's happening is some of these businesses say, you know what, I'm going to throw the towel in. I'm not going to put up with this for months and months and months. And that's a more prolonged effect. So, Lisa, I pray to God that it's May, June. I pray to God that it's May, June. And for some reason, I've got a funny feeling that it's going to be closer to May, June than it's going to be November, December. But it's not. On my Facebook, I asked the question to people, is this going to be more than, what did I say? I think I said more than, is it going to be 6 months or 3 months? I can't remember. But all I knew is that most people believe this is going to be longer rather than shorter.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what we're being told. Like, I feel like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a political person. We're not. Mark and I are not political people, and I actually think they're doing a phenomenal job for whatever it's worth. But I feel like more fear's being sold than hope. And it's only been the last couple of days. I feel like we've actually just been given this little glimmer of hope. And it's kind of what we all need, because whether you're a business, we've got friends from all over the spectrum. We do need that, because, you know, we've got some friends that are doing so well in this environment, you know, friends that are in the meat industry and in the pharmaceutical industries. Man, these guys are, you know, but they've got their own realm of problems, right? They've got staff that are fighting with each other. They can't get enough staff. They're untrained staff. You know, their unions and legislations. It's been an absolute nightmare on a whole different level for them. And then you've got other people that, you know, but at the end of the day, everyone is tired. Everyone's stressed. We all wake up in the morning. We're like, is this really bloody happening? Or was that just a bad dream that I had? You know, so we need.
If I could sell anything, again, 2021, we're a better race. That's got to be the silver lining in the whole thing.
I think definitely we all agree. We all agree with that, without a doubt.
And look, the one thing that helps keep things in perspective is that, like, let's assume you're $1 million down, right? This year, call it, I'm just calling numbers, say 500, you're 500 down, right?
Yeah.
What you need to know is that we're all connected like neurons. Like, just picture this chemical composition, and we're all connected. Every person is actually down. You actually haven't really lost anything if you think about it. It's a level playing field, right? So the truth is, maybe at the end of 6 months, I don't know. I think maybe at the end of 30 years, we're going to say it was incredible. We were part of this situation where we actually, you know, we didn't get impacted negatively financially in the end, because everyone sort of copped it if it's managed that way properly. And what happened is we just changed, and we got brainwashed in 3 months to actually realize we'd been got carried away with life, you know?
And
I agree.
Tom, I've been saying it from the beginning. I think Newton was the guy. Energy when energy is displaced, it transfers. It doesn't get burnt or buried. It just moves to different parts of the world or the economy or whatever. It just moves. So when all the energies come out of the obvious sectors that people talk about, people are very, very vocal, and we feel very bad for those people. Where the energy is transferred to, you are not going to put your hand up and say, I've profited from this, and look, it's okay. Life's good. You know, I'm employing and I've made a lot. So I think there are industries and people out there that have done particularly well where the energy is transferred to. And I think those people, you know, good on you for, it's called support. It's called helping the economy, but they're making money from it.
Yeah. And
look, I don't think you're a very popular. I don't think you're a very popular agent at the moment if you're speaking about how many sales you're doing and how many listings you're getting. It's this is my own opinion. I don't believe it's right. I have listed and sold a number of properties over the last couple of weeks. It is definitely not the forum to be advertising that. I think the best thing now we can do as an industry is to help one another. And to do something that is going to be memorable. So for those of you guys that are in lockdown, for those of you guys that are not in lockdown, the best advice that I can give, that we can give to you, is do something right now that will make you memorable, something that people won't forget. You know, I get like you do, Tom. I know you've always got time. I messaged you this morning at 10:30 and said, hey, can you come on Novak News? And it's the last thing I'm sure you felt like doing. But you will give your time because that's the sort of person that you are. And that's what people remember, right? So for those of you guys that haven't got the ability to be able to get out and still do your one-on-one appointments like we can, or function as normally as what we can, do something that will make you stand out right now.
Help people.
Yeah.
I've got to say to you, like right now, Lisa, yes, you've got the ability to show real estate. Yes, you've got the ability to go to an appointment and meet an owner. The truth is, the current environment suggests to me that you really are going to be sowing more seeds than reaping, whether you're in lockdown or not, right? And there's a great saying: the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. This is eating fruit. It's not eating fruit right now. What you're doing is you're planting seeds. So forget about the sale and focus about the relationship. Forget about your listing presentation and focus on others. Forget about yourself and focus on others. Forget about the future and focus. Because I actually got to tell you, when things are going shit, I reckon sometimes the best thing to do is you forget about the future and you focus on today. How do I get through today? What do I do? What are the things that gets me through today, right? And then the last thing is you got to do is you got to forget about what's missing and you got to start focusing on what's available to you. And
agreed. You know guys, you know what? We may look back, and these could very well be some of the best days of our lives because of the reasons that I mentioned before. And we are going to wrap up, Tom, because I know you've got to go, but we may very well look back and say, you know what, we got to put the pause button on life. We got to spend more time with our children. You're in a plane, aren't you, Tom? The majority of the time you're away from your family.
And I've made up my mind. I'm going to still fly, but I'm not going to fly. I'm not going to fly as much because what do they say?
Realised there's other ways.
You know, like I'll never forget a guy. I'll never forget a guy. He'd spent 7 years in jail, and I'd gone to school with him, and he just wrong people at the wrong time. And somehow a guy that was normal like us in a matter of 6 months ends up finding himself.
Jimmy, for sure.
Jimmy. So Jimbo, right? So Jimbo does time, right? And I remember what Jimbo said to me. I said, mate, I can't fathom walking in, putting the greens, having people there, sleeping in a room with another person, the whole thing about what you hear about in showers. And he said this to me, yeah, like I was the same. But after a while, even 6 years of jail begins to feel normal. And it makes me realize, you know, when you're working a job and you're flying every day and you're going to one place and everything is based on time. So your whole life is spent, okay, Uber, 33 minutes. Got to be at the airport at 2:15. I'm going to allow 5 minutes extra there. Okay. So everything's like that. Then you actually get used to that, right? Then all of a sudden it stops. And 1 week goes by and 2 weeks go by. And then you think, shit, okay, I'm sleeping better. I'm eating my own food. Wow. I get to pick coffee at the same place. I want to have coffee every day. I don't have to sort of, there. And then all of a sudden you think, shit, this is pretty good. And then you think and I've been thinking this to myself, as soon as they say, guess what? It's business back to normal. There are elements of this I'm going to miss.
See,
hey,
and
Tom,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
On this, I want you to do a story on what the city looks like in 2021 and 2022, because I think the CBD of Sydney, is not going to be is going to be different. Is going to be different to what the CBD has. What the CBD has done the last 5 years, I think is going to be different to what the CBD does the next 5 years. I'm not putting a cloud over it, but I just think it's going to be different.
Some of that office space might be half empty because I think people have realised that they can function quite normally outside of that office space. It's amazing. It's amazing how it's amazing how innovative we can be when we just pivot, right?
Well,
but we've been forced to. I mean, some of us are instinctively like to be innovative, like Mark, because he's just geared that way. But some people actually have to be forced into being innovative, and they've got to just pivot now. We've got to use the other side of our brain.
If I'm a CEO, over the last 3-4 weeks of a company that maybe is in the ASX 200, one of the things I'd be saying to myself is, why is my CTO hopping on a business class ticket, staying at the Langham Hotel in Melbourne for a 2.5-hour meeting, and then also filling out an expense claim form for his $350 dinner with one other person at the rock pool. What was that all about?
When you can just do this.
Why didn't he actually stay at home, get on Zoom, have the meeting with the other person, have an email sent at the end of the meeting where there was clarity on who was doing what and when it was going to get done by, and then he moved on to his next meeting? I think that's what some of the CEOs are going to be thinking.
That CEO during COVID-19 did the same thing and it worked. So why can't they do it again in 2000?
Exactly right.
Look back.
It's interesting.
Everyone's been found out, haven't they? They've been found out.
Oh, these are bloody interesting times.
Were they there out of habit?
Anyway,
were they there out of bad disciplines? Were they there out of necessity?
I love that everyone's been found out.
Everyone's been found out. Yeah.
So good. But you know what? We are going to survive. I can't wait to have this discussion when we've crossed over the bridge and we are on the other side and we are looking back.
Well, yeah.
We are all going to have a laugh about this at some stage. I promise you that we will. Once we get through the pain of it all, we will.
Hopefully we've spoken a bit at some people tonight's consciences. I think it's on a lot of what we've spoken about is definitely on our minds, and hopefully we helped with what's in other people's minds as well, and stepping everyone through it. Thank you very much, Tom.
Tom, thank you so much. Thank you. Absolute legend. As always, thank you. Guys, we hope this has helped everybody out there. Have a great night. Have an awesome week. Remember, be memorable. That's super important. Help each other. See you guys. Love you. Bye.
Stay positive. Stay healthy. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.